I remember days they used to laugh at me. Used to show them on my records talking casually. Used to say it was a passion on my path to be. Then they told me that I couldn't, so I had to be. Tell me what they really think about it now. Used to hate it, but I guarantee they're proud. Had to do it just to show them that I could, yeah. Now I finally think I took it where I should, yeah. I had jokes on you and now you're on and laughing. I did a whole lot of winning. Look, it came from a passion. I see a whole lot of knowings I could see now in public. And that may think a lot of things, man. At least think something, now you the judge. And now tell me where you ended up. Yeah. Look, I bet it was a simple job. Yeah. Look, I went and took a different route. Yeah. Look, that's why my life is different now. Back in my feelings, look, when I wasn't so gifted and I was learning to do this, and all I heard were the critics, and I don't blame you for that shit. Look, I was way out the basis, but I just needed some talent so I could wait this to greatness. Oh yeah, you ain't ever think this, no, no, no. Stop me while I started, homie, whoa, whoa, whoa. Now this shit settled, it's go better and better, but I'll always remember, yeah, yeah.
Welcome back to That One Podcast. We're here in Miami. It's your boy C-Roc. I got Kins Roth here with us. And we also have our first guest of our trip here to Miami, Dr. Nadine Macaluso. And I don't know why I feel like saying, forget about it when I hear that. I'm Italian, I guess, but welcome to the show, Dr. Nadine.
Thank you so much for having me.
Pleasure to have you here.
Yes, thank you.
I mean, can we just first point out the coordination between this beautiful woman and myself? It's like we coordinate our Christmas card, the red, the black. I mean, did you miss our memo? You look great too,
I'm
Mikey,
a little pissed.
But, yeah.
Yeah, I thought we would all wear Dolphins colors because they won yesterday. We're in Miami, so I bought a shirt and 305, baby. I guess that's the area code, right?
It looks great. And that was your first football game ever, you were telling me. What did you think of the experience?
Oh, it was so much fun.
Yeah.
You know, my family is football crazy fanatics, and I just would always have the football game on, but I would never see it.
Oh,
you know, I was never interested. And one of the women I work with, who's a divorce coach, her partner is an agent for a bunch of the players.
Oh, cool.
So I said, if you go to a game, invite me, and she did, and I got to go on the field.
Yes, girl, she did it
great.
right.
It was great. So much fun.
I guess I tried to get on the field. I called a friend of mine, and it was too short a notice. So I'm short notice with some things.
Yeah.
And she said, the only way you can get down there is if you strip and streak. And I was like, I don't know about doing that. No, I don't know about doing that. But no, she didn't really say that. But anyway, it was a great game, overtime game. You guys left before the end.
Of course we did.
And I was there with some of my Latino friends, Cubans. Shout out to the Cubans. In Miami, we were out there and they showed me how to do it. So I've been to football games before. So
yes,
but Miami
I would
tailgate's
imagine.
Different.
Yeah?
Yeah, I'm used to Philly, but
it was fun.
Different weather, yeah. So.
Oh, the weather was beautiful.
So you live in Boca now?
I do.
Okay.
I live in Boca now.
Okay,
yeah, I go
cool.
between Boca and New York.
Okay, very cool. Well, let's get into it. We have
Let's
so many
do it.
questions for
All
you.
right, yeah. So let's get into it because I wasn't sure. First of all, we were supposed to have a virtual interview.
Yes.
And you popped on the screen, and I said, "Wait a minute, where are you located?" And you said Boca, right?
Yes.
And I said, "Wait a minute, I'm going to be in Miami, and I have a spot." And you're like, "Oh my gosh, you just made my day!" And so we stopped that. We didn't even go into that interview.
That's right.
And we lined up, and I believe things happen for a reason. It's an honor and privilege to have you here because
Thank you.
I watched the movie. I watched like some of the behind the scenes stuff that went on in real life that you've went through in your life, and I can relate to some of that stuff because as a kid growing up, I witnessed some of that stuff.
You did.
I came from a lot of brokenness. So as I'm watching these things, I can relate to all characters that are in it.
Yes.
And I try to put myself in their position. So I was really excited to have you here and interview you about this.
Yeah.
And then about what you're doing now, more importantly, because this is what matters.
Yes.
The trauma,
Yes.
helping people with trauma and recover from trauma or escape trauma, bonding as you call it.
That's right. Escape trauma bonds.
Right?
Yep. It's been a long road here.
Yeah.
Yeah. So can you start by taking us back to before you were married and what you were doing?
Yeah, sure. So I grew up in Brooklyn, Duchess of Bay Ridge, right?
Yes.
And so I was raised in Brooklyn in the 70s, which was a magical time, right? There was no internet, there were no phones. Kids just played on the street. And I was raised by a single mom, very strong woman. And, but she raised us on welfare initially. And then she made more money and she actually went back to school as well. And she was very into psychology and feelings and talking about how you felt. But at 18, being close to New York, I was like, I need to make money. Like, we need money in this world. And so I became a model. And I hated it because it was boring.
Yeah.
But it was a great way to make money. And then, as fate would have it, I went with one of my boyfriends to the Wolf of Wall Street's beach house party.
Okay, you have to take us. Wolf of Wall Street. That's like an infamous scene when Jordan lays eyes on you for the first time. And
Yes.
How accurate is it? Is that really how it went down? Was his friend really enamored with you as if you've seen in the movie? Or
Yes.
take us through that.
Yes, yes. So I show up with my boyfriend at the time, and
Right.
it wasn't a big party like that. It was a smaller party, and we walk in, and I'm like, what the hell is happening here? These people are really weird. I didn't know they were all on Quaaludes.
Yes,
Because I was 22.
They're all
I
high.
didn't know what
Yeah.
a Quaalude was. And then as the movie depicts, one of his friends exposed themselves to me. And you know, at 22, that feels so shameful.
Yeah.
I was mortified. And I looked at my boyfriend. I was like, we got to get the fuck out of here.
Yeah.
And we left. And I never thought about it again. But I guess he had set eyes on me and was like, I want her.
I want her.
Yeah.
And then take us through this whirl. Like, let me ask you, did you know what you were getting into? I mean, a little bit. Did you know these were kind of bad boys, or he was kind of a bad boy and this was going to be a flashy lifestyle?
You know, listen, I was a model in the city, in New York
Yeah,
City, right?
yeah.
So I was already dating tons of rich playboys.
Okay.
Okay, that was just kind of the way it went.
Yeah.
I never knew somebody could be like that, though.
Yeah.
That was a different level. And yeah, no, I never understood that someone could like do all those drugs and break the law and
Yeah.
be so crazy, because I never saw that before, right? So if you've never seen it before, you don't know it exists.
Yeah.
Right.
And I just fell so madly in love. You know, I got so love bombed with, you know, he would send his driver with $15,000 in cash, a Bulgari watch, you know, the flowers that you see in the movie. Everything was so over the top. It was the 90s, late 80s, right? And, you know, that was when Pretty Woman was coming out and Wall Street, right? So that was the time. And I was just like, this is fabulous. Plus, I'm in love with him.
Yeah.
Wait a minute, but did it go through at first where you weren't in love with him and you were like, well, this is a lot of like benefits here. Like, can I just like roll with this and not have to do anything, or and see how long this goes? Or
Yeah,
did that go
because
through your
you have
mind?
to remember he was married, right?
Okay,
So
yeah,
he
that's
told
right.
me he was separated. You know,
But I was going to ask you, what did he actually tell you? Because a lot of women experience this. They're like, well, he told me this, and this is what was actually happening.
But the crazy part too is the way he orchestrated it. He paid somebody or made them $15,000 in the stock market to set me up on our first meeting. So I had no idea that all this was happening.
Right.
So, you know, he was married, supposedly. And I was just like, okay, like, whatever. I'll date this guy, like you say, 1 or 2 times.
Yeah, yeah.
And that's it. I'll have fun and
nice
I'll leave.
bag. I'll have a nice bag and some shoes.
Yeah, and I was fine with that.
Yeah.
But one night at dinner, I remember he said to me, I think we're going to know each other for a very long time. So very different than what the movie depicts, right?
Yeah.
She
Yeah.
says, we're not going to
not
be
gonna be
friends.
friends.
But he said to me at the River Cafe in Brooklyn, New York, he said, we're going to know each other for a really long time. And I was like, all right, whatever. But he was right.
Now, how does that go with the movie? Like, do they contact you and say, hey, we need to interview you, or we need to do some research with you? Are you cool with that? How's that all work?
Yeah, so what happened,
the
you have to
scenes.
remember, Jordan wrote a book first, The Wolf of Wall Street, right? So then he got the book made into a movie. So I really wasn't a part of any of it. The only thing that happened was Martin Scorsese's office called me and said, you know, hey, we want to... I didn't let them use my name. And so they were worried I was going to sue them. And I said, I'm not suing you. I said, I just don't make any money. I have no creative input. This is not really about my life. You can't use my name. It's like the last
Yeah.
thing I'm going
Yeah.
to stand on. And I said, you better be nice to me because I have kids. And so then they said, will you meet Margot? And I said, yeah. And I was taking my daughter to college. So we flew into the city and I got to meet her.
And take us through that experience. We know she's a beautiful, strong woman like you,
Yeah.
but I know she had apprehensions about nudity and things like
Yes.
that. So how was your meeting with her?
Yes.
And were you like, okay, I give you my seal of approval to play me?
You know, I didn't have that luxury, but she was so young. She was 22, the age I was. Beautiful girl. And they taped me for a few hours to get this ridiculous accent of mine.
Oh, we love it. It
Okay.
never changed.
I'm used to that kind of
Yeah.
accent.
Yeah. So, and then my husband and I, my current husband and I, took her to dinner, and that's when she brought up that whole thing of I don't really want to be naked. I'm afraid to be naked, you know, but I don't want to tell them. And I said that feeling right there, that fear of talking truth to power. That's how I felt every day. So embody that, and you'll get it.
Yeah. And then, so what was it like when you actually watched the movie?
Yeah.
And did you watch it right away?
I did. So Paramount sent my current husband and I, John, to a private screening. And so we sat down and I was like, okay, this is weird. And then we watched it and we looked at each other. We go, that wasn't bad.
Okay.
But like, were you like when you were watching it? Like, were
Yeah.
you like the whole time like, oh, that wasn't I don't know. Like,
Yeah,
were you,
I don't
like,
think
picking-
I was doing that. I think I was just like immersed in it and curious.
Yeah.
And I probably was a little bit like that didn't happen that way.
Yeah,
Right?
yeah.
Because chronologically it didn't happen that way.
And what parts were embellished like that? What parts did they go a little Hollywood-esque, if you would?
Well, the part.
in regards to you especially.
Yeah, the part that Jordan did in his book, and which was very depicted in the movie, that wasn't true. We never had a fight about a female. Oh. But he wrote it like that. We always fought about his drug intake.
Okay.
Because that was so scary to me as a young girl.
Yeah.
Right? But for whatever reason, he wanted to show that I was this very jealous person, which I wasn't. He was.
Yeah.
And whatever. But that otherwise, the movie's 100% true.
So they're never the scene where she's like, "What am I fucking out?" Like, hoo.
No, I
so
never
that
did.
didn't happen.
I should have thrown water in his face.
Yeah, exactly.
But I never did.
Okay.
No, I never did. I'm just not that jealous of a person, honestly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And the drug addiction alone was enough to drive me crazy.
Yeah.
So that was my first focus, really.
What did the scene in the kiddo's bedroom when she's like, mommy's gonna be walking around the really sexy part, like with no panties on? Did that happen or no?
No, I
Okay.
wish I was that
Yeah,
sexy.
I know you are that sexy. That's why I can imagine it happening.
I was 23, right? So
Yeah.
at 23, you don't have to try to be sexy.
Yeah, you just are.
I was
right,
like
exactly.
running around in my horseback riding clothes and,
Right.
but there were cameras in that bedroom, but that did not happen.
Okay.
Now I'm matching you guys because my face is probably as red as your clothes.
Cheeks are.
This is why I bring her because I wouldn't ask those questions. No, that's awesome. I love it.
That's
I'm just always worried about my wife watching. Like, why'd you ask that? So no, but that's great. So from there, I want to know after the movie was out, what did life change at all? Like, did more people reach out to you? What happened?
Yeah,
after that?
they did. Like Entertainment Tonight, all of these people would reach out to me. They would show up at my door, but I interviewed with nobody because I had nothing to say.
Yeah.
I'm not that type of person that's just going to talk for the sake of talking. I had nothing to say. And at that time, simultaneously, I had just gotten my master's and was licensed, and I was getting my doctorate. So I was like, who the hell is going to want to come to me now as a therapist, right? I was
Right.
genuinely worried about that.
Yeah.
But actually the opposite happened.
So this goes to what I talk about all the time. It's better to be known than really good at what you do.
Yeah.
Because if you're really good at what you do and nobody knows you, you're not going to get any clients.
That's true.
So, and I'm
Very
sure you're
true.
very good at what you do. I heard
Yes.
great things about you, but it's way more important to be known.
Yeah. And what happened was that, you would have thought I would have had this whole grand scheme, like this is what I was going to end up doing, but I didn't. The movie came out. I was a therapist. I never wanted to specialize in anything. In fact, I wanted to treat everybody, but I saw all these smart, kind, beautiful women trauma bonded. And I was
Yes.
just like, you know what? We got a problem.
This is incredible that you have really just blown the cap off this because people don't know what it is.
Right.
And I love that you've coined the term pathological lover. So can you go
Yes.
into that because you're really speaking to women? They're like, I don't love him, but it's the cycles keep going. And so
Yeah.
how did you coin that term? I love it.
Yeah, so what happened is that the way I describe this pathological lover is they will use, harm, exploit, and betray anybody and everybody to get their needs met for money, power, pleasure, and status. So the way I think of that, pathological means mentally unwell. And anybody who would do that to somebody they're supposedly love is mentally unwell.
It's very true. Tell us about trauma bonding because obviously it's a buzz term.
Yeah.
But I know that you spoke that it takes 7 times for a woman to
Yes.
finally leave, and because she's so in the clouds and you don't know your judgment's impaired. So tell us about trauma bonding and why does it take so long? Because everyone's like, if you're not happy, just leave.
I know,
you know?
I know. That's one of the reasons I wrote my book, right? To blow the stigma off of that. So what trauma bonds is basically any toxic, dysfunctional relationship between two emotionally attached people. But one of the partners, and it can be between a parent and child, employer and employee, right? Friends, but I write about it with lovers. And one of the people wants power and control over the other. And that's at the very root of the trauma bond. And it has to have 2 things. It has to have a power imbalance where one person has all the power and abuses it. And the second thing, it has to have intermittent reinforcement. So this is why it's so hard to leave, because in the beginning, the guy's like Romeo.
Yeah.
He's like loving and kind and generous and helpful. But then the mask falls and Dirty John comes out. And they're controlling and betraying and cruel and abusive.
Yeah.
And so it's those 2 experiences, right, of the same person that keep you confused. Because you're always hoping Romeo's coming back.
Yep.
and he never comes back.
He comes back for a little
A
bit.
little
When he
bit.
needs
The
to.
love bombing.
Yeah,
I
when
he
guess.
needs to.
Yeah, just to like
Yeah.
keep you holding on. And I always say hope is the hook.
Hope is the hook. Why do, Nadine, I'm always curious as to why these men go after like something shiny like and beautiful and you see like you think you're a powerful woman and then they try to like strip
Yeah,
away
yeah.
that shiny and beautiful shininess, and then if they do step out or they do whatever, it's with someone that you're like, what? Or it just, what is
Yeah.
the process of that? Do they just want to diminish the confidence of
Yeah.
the person they're trying to control?
Yeah, well, remember, they want to have power and control, so they want
Yeah.
to diminish you to be able to control you. They usually have no moral compass, right? They're usually very entitled, and they genuinely think they're superior.
But they're insecure deep down, or are
I
they
think
not?
some of them, not
Yeah.
all of them.
Okay.
I wouldn't say my ex is the most insecure
Yeah,
person,
right, exactly.
No, so it's different. But the thing is, no moral compass, entitlement, superiority, want power and control, and boom.
Now, did you guys have friends that you went out with, and were they more your friends or his friends?
So they were more his friends initially, yeah.
And
yeah.
then did you get along with the wives, or was it
Yes,
like
yes.
Because sometimes that's that dynamic with my wife and I when we go out. Like one of us are friends with the other person. It's
Yes.
never like a perfect match.
Yeah, we had well, remember, he was the king, so everybody wanted to kiss the ring, right? So everybody, was bowed down to
And
him.
when you like would go out like that and see that, would you be just like, oh,
Definitely.
Yeah.
I was just like, oh, here we go again. But, I was also part of the facade, right? Because I would have beautiful dinner parties and kept a beautiful home and kept our life running.
Yeah.
So that's why they want somebody who's smart and powerful and strong, right? Even though they don't really.
Right.
But
Exactly.
it supports their image.
It makes and what? So have you talked to Jordan? Did he contact you after the movie came out, or what's your relationship now?
Yeah, actually, the day the movie came out, he came over.
Oh, okay.
Because it came
Okay.
out on Christmas 2013, and
right.
I could tell he was all freaked out, and my kids were going to be with him. And I said, you know what, just come on over. So he actually came over the day the movie came out, and we've always had a good enough relationship.
Okay.
Now I'm exploiting the movie, so
Yeah.
he certainly has his feelings around that, but I think he's made peace with it.
I mean, why shouldn't you though?
Well,
I
as
mean,
I
it's
said
part
to
of-
him,
it's part of
I
it.
said, listen, you wrote a book and made a movie. I can make a TikTok.
Yeah,
It's part of your
exactly.
story.
Right.
So
right.
I wrote a book called Rocket Fuel: Convert Setbacks, Become Unstoppable, and it went back into my life with the brokenness and some of the stuff that happened with my dad, my stepmom, and all this. And I caught hell.
You did.
And I never named any names, but
Yeah.
it's my story. Like I have a
Right.
right to my story, and
That's
there's
right.
lessons in everything that we've gone through.
That's right.
If you're smart, right?
That's
if you
right.
know what you're doing. So,
Right.
what are some of the things like after looking back and analyzing everything you went through?
Yeah.
What are some of the main lessons you learned that like I have this law like you take everything in your life, you can put it in your trunk or your tank. And in your trunk it weighs you down and slows you down. In
Yeah.
your tank you can convert it into rocket fuel and become unstoppable.
Yeah.
What are some of the things that you can put in your tank now?
Yeah, well, the first one is that trust has to be earned. I blindly trust everybody. I mean, almost to this day. No, I've gotten better at it. But trust definitely has to be earned. What happened for me is that I'm an agreeable, conscientious person. I just assumed the whole world was like that.
Yeah.
I didn't know that there was evil in the world. I really didn't get it. Now, of course, as an older woman, I definitely get that. And I just realized that trust has to be earned for sure. And that, I think as a young girl, I projected all my power onto him. I was really afraid to own my power because I thought of power as greedy and terrible. And then one of my therapists said to me, no, you can have power for good.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I never knew that.
And selfishness could be a good thing.
Yeah.
If it's used in the right way,
yeah,
right?
like healthy self-esteem is good.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
But it has to be real self-esteem based on accomplishments and having a moral code and those sorts of things. Yeah.
Now, go ahead.
Oh, I said I want to go back to the trauma bonding for a second. For our people that are watching, how did you finally break free? Like, how did you find? Because we talked. It takes 7 times, and there's people stuck. They're like almost there, and then
Yes.
the hovering stage, and they get reeled back
Yeah.
in. And so, do you just have to get to the point where you're disgusted? Do you keep having to go back till you could finally go, or how does someone?
How does
break
somebody
free
leave?
finally?
Well, first of all, I would say there are last straw moments. So there are 2 parts to this. My last straw moments were A, when he got physical with me, and B, when he had no remorse when I told him how terrible it was. He was like, it wasn't that bad. and something inside closed. I didn't know the word callousness, but now I know that. And then once he got arrested, that was my window.
Perfect.
Because I was like, oh, I can leave. I'm safe now. But what I tell my women that I work with is once you internally make that decision, first of all, you need support. You can't do it alone. You have to reach out to the helpers. Don't ever let them see you coming. You can never tell them.
Move in silence.
Yeah. So you know how they wear the mask initially? Now you have to wear the mask and plan everything behind the scenes.
That's brilliant advice right there.
I can relate to this so much. Because when I was a kid, I was living with my dad going through all this stuff with my stepmom. And same thing, I told my mom about it. And then she filed court papers, and I didn't say anything. So these court papers were waiting to come and he's waiting to be served. And I had to put on that mask and not let him know it's coming. But I had to wait for that ticking time bomb to happen.
Yes.
And then when it happens, so did you have that moment where there was like a ticking time bomb that was going off and you were waiting for it?
You know, I think, you know, after he got physical with me, Jordan went to rehab. And so then I was like, oh, I got to stay with him now. He's sober. But I was done. But so I didn't even know really like that he was going to get arrested. But once he did, I was like, I am done. Yeah. So I just escaped.
And then when he went to jail, or when you escaped, did you have a major financial setback at that time?
Oh, yeah.
And so, when you go through that, whether it's caused by this or you wanted to switch careers like I did, and everything just changes, it can be traumatic.
Yeah.
Right? So can you take us through that?
Yeah. So, you know, when he got arrested, his bail was $10 million. So we put up all our homes. I drove $1 million of my jewelry to the jailhouse. I was like, take it. Because honestly, you know, when you've lived in such chaos like that, like I did, I was done with the money. I just didn't give a shit. I mean,
can we talk about the peak in the like? So how much money have you seen and been around, and then how much? Then how? What changed
and then it all
that?
switched. So I mean, so we had to give up that much money, but you know, money we could spend whatever we want, right?
Yeah.
We had the yacht that was $7 million. You know, money was. You could do whatever you want. I could do whatever I wanted. I wish I would have done more, honestly, in retrospect. But I didn't. And then, so when everything went away, honestly, I was relieved.
Really?
Yeah, because it was total chaos and madness, and I knew that money didn't buy me happiness. You know, I thought it would give me safety and security, and it gave me the total opposite.
Wow.
And luckily, while I was married, I had started my own little maternity company, and I had a store, a catalog, and a website, and so I had that little bit, and I didn't really know how it was going to all go down, but I lived through it.
So then what was the first moment where you started getting back on your feet, though? Like, what was that thing?
Yeah, so when he got arrested, I think like in September, and then maybe he left right away. Like I got kicked him out in October, and then slowly but surely, I just started to get back on my feet. They let me stay in the house, and then about a year and a half later, I met my current husband on a blind date, and he lived in California, and he said to me, "Just come with the kids." Like he was in the garment business, I'm in the garment business. He's like, "Just come with the kids, get out of here," and I did.
Now, how is that new relationship? Because obviously you have some drama you've been through, and you know, trust issues. How were you able to kind of like fall into this man and like trust that he would be a safe place?
Yeah, well, you know, luckily I'd gone to therapy. So the second I met Jordan, I put myself in therapy because I was like,
tell you something.
I was like,
red flag.
I cannot handle this, and I always thought that therapy was what allowed me to survive. And then right after I left him, I went to a place called the Karen Foundation in Pennsylvania. They have a program for a week called Breakthrough. Anybody who just wants to do deep psychological work, quick. So I had also learned to trust myself. Right? It's not as much also about trusting other people as it is learning to trust yourself. And, you know, he had 3 little kids. I had 2 little kids. He was Italian. I'm half Italian. And I just really took a leap of faith. And I figured it can't be any worse than what I had just dealt with. And I really wanted to get my kids out of New York.
Yeah.
I didn't want them to deal with that legacy. And it was the best thing I ever did. And now we're together 23 years.
That's amazing.
And he seems amazing. I only met him for a short time, but I'm a pretty good judge of character. So I hope he heard me.
Now, looking back, when you were like, he was callous and saying it wasn't that bad, which I'm sure just irks you. But you have grown and you're helping so many women. So would you go back and do it all again? Like all of this?
I
this
would.
You would.
I would, because also I have 2 amazing children.
Yeah.
Right. So my daughter's 31. She's a therapist. She's a professor at NYU. My
fantastic.
son is a musician and now works with Jordan. And they're amazing. And I have a grandson. And, I have another grandson with my stepkids. So it all worked out.
So let's talk about the kids for a second. Like, how old were they when you left?
5 and 3.
Okay, so they were at least a younger age.
They were very young. Yeah.
Yeah. So, but how's this all impacted them? Do you think? Like, do you think they've? It seems to me, based on what you just said, they've stored things in their tank to be able to convert and become unstoppable at life.
Yeah, they're.
Versus
you know
the
what?
other
Like because of the way I grew up, talking about emotions and welcoming psychology, that's always been our philosophy. So I talked about their feelings around this ad nauseum. They've both been in therapy since they're 16. And I never lied to them. I said, yeah, your dad was a drug addict and abused me. That's why I left him. I didn't go into the details. I didn't disparage him. And luckily I did, because the movie came out. So we've always just been a very open family, albeit imperfect. And it just worked out.
Did that actually happen when Jordan threw was it your daughter in the car?
Yes.
And that actually happened?
Yes, that
and I
actually
just like
happened.
as a mom myself, I was like, I couldn't even
Yeah,
imagine what went through.
that was the pinnacle. That was the worst of it. He had kicked me down the stairs right before that. Yes, but I saved her.
Yeah.
And so,
How was her reaction to seeing that on film?
She went to the premiere. I guess she
Yeah.
was okay.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I think the sex scenes were more troubling.
I was like, that's my mom and dad. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, I
That's-
think they
okay.
were. I think that they were. Yeah.
Now, what you're doing now? Let's talk about what you're doing
Yes,
now, because
yes.
it's important. The work that you're doing is important, impacting a lot of lives. First of all, I guess one thing I really want to know is, like, when you're working in any profession, you want to become that one,
Yeah.
right? That is not always the best. It stands out amongst, or not blending in with any other therapist.
Right.
What have you done and identified that separates you
I think what separates
besides the movie? and all
Yeah,
that?
I think what separates me as a therapist is I'm very real. And I always say to them in therapy, oh, I'm breaking another therapy rule. Here we go. I always say, sorry, therapy gods. I'm very real. And when I work with these women, I always say, we're in the emotional emergency room. We're doing triage work. And they have access to me 24/7. They can text me. They can call me. I'm a concierge therapist, because when you're trying to get a woman out of this situation, or helping her heal, or helping her fight in court, they need you.
Yeah.
And nobody's ever crossed boundaries. It's always worked out well.
I was going to ask if you had a "what about Bob"
Because
moment.
that's
where
rare.
they-
That's amazing.
Yeah, one of them will show up here on
Yeah.
set.
Yeah, no, I mean, but actually before I did this work, I had more of that.
Yeah.
But no, they're all just wonderful women. And so I think what separates me is that, like, I am there in the trenches with them.
What are some of the things that are the therapy rules that you most common run into where you have to step outside?
Just a lot of times, therapists are supposed to be a blank screen. Like, I share a lot of my experiences with them.
Yeah.
I don't know. I just probably say I curse a lot in therapy.
Yeah.
It's just real, which we
Yeah,
appreciate.
I don't think
yeah.
she said one curse here so far.
No,
has she?
I've just been good on it. But
You can be bad here. It's okay.
okay. It's just no. So, and I'm also very different. I give them tons of assessments before they come. So I save them about 6 months in therapy, so I know who they are. And I've literally written the book, Run Like Hell, on what they're going through.
Yeah.
Right. So it's just different. When we're talking and they're dealing with obnoxious ex, I'm like, remember, I literally wrote the book. We got this.
Yes. Oh, I love that. We got that. Do you recommend going no contact, or is it that impossible? Especially if you have kids, how
If
do
you
you
have
navigate
kids, it's
that?
impossible
Yeah.
to go no contact. But if you don't have kids, you have to really go no contact, because it's like a drug.
Yeah.
What does that mean? No contact.
You have to block them.
Oh, okay,
no
cut
texting.
off. Yeah, yeah.
You just, because it's like a drug. If you take another hit, you're going
Yeah.
back into the cycle.
What about with kids though? How do they not have contact?
Well, that's different. Then you have
Yeah,
to have
yeah.
contact, and then you have to have a lawyer, and then it gets very, very tricky. And the family
Yeah.
court system is a disaster.
Yeah. And how about the outside? What about the outside family? Your family, his grandparents, uncles, aunts, and all that. What's the dynamic now?
It's all good.
Everybody's good, but at first
Yeah.
it wasn't. When you were going through it, or
No, you know what? His parents are lovely people. His
Mm-hmm.
dad died. My mom passed, unfortunately, but his mother's still alive. She's 91. She's an
Yeah.
amazing. She's a great grandmother.
Yeah.
I think that's the moral of the story, right? Is that life is hard,
Mm-hmm.
and we all go through traumatic things. I don't care who you are.
Yeah.
But if you do the work, and I don't know, there's resilience in doing the work, going to therapy, talking about it, getting the help you need. You can come out the other side.
And has he given you a formal apology for
No.
like just putting you through hell?
No.
No.
Well, that's the thing about a trauma bond. One of the things is these people, they don't really have remorse, empathy, or compassion.
Is it fixable?
With
Like-
some people
like-
it is.
yeah.
With,
Yeah, is it-
there's 20% I think it's fixable.
20%?
So when
Something
women say he can change, what do you say?
Don't be the one that's there for.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I just say, well, words have to match actions.
Right.
I'm not into the words.
And how do
know.
you beat a liar? Someone who just lies.
You can't. That's
Yeah.
the whole point.
Yeah.
If someone's a pathological liar and lying to your face, what shots do you have against them?
Yeah.
You don't. And there's enough people out there.
Yeah.
That's the thing. Most people get this tunnel vision
Yeah.
with jobs or professions, with spouses, partners, money. They
Right.
think that they're so limited thinking.
Right.
And so do you work with some people to open up their thinking and think bigger?
Oh, well, that's the whole thing. Is therapy is about shift in perception.
Yeah, yeah.
Always, because we're so locked into a perception, and it's all about, what about if we look at it this way? What about if we look at it that way?
Yeah, yeah.
It's incredible. I mean, it's so cool because you're just so brilliant. Like people are like, oh, she's just such a, watching the movie, but you really go for it. And like, here's your book.
Yes.
So tell me about, when did you know, like, I'm going to write a book and I'm going to save lives and help women?
So what happened, like I said, all these women were coming into my office, trauma bonded, betrayed, lied, financial abuse, coercion. And I said, we got a problem. Are we stuck in the 1950s? This
Right.
is insanity. And so being an academic that I am, I went back to the research. It was the hardest thing I've ever done. It was very humbling. I don't recommend it because, of course, I finished it right before AI. And so what happens is I talk about, what a trauma bond is, and I talk about, I give examples of 4 trauma bonded couples.
Okay.
And then I weave all the clinical material through it. And so then I teach them what a trauma bond is, the pathological partner, who they are, how to leave, what the symptoms are, and most importantly, how to heal.
Yes. And I love this because you're changing lives, helping everybody heal. And what would you give advice to someone right now that's like in the thick of it, that doesn't know if they're going to make it out?
Yeah, if you're in the thick of it right now, the first thing I suggest is get my book.
Yes,
Okay.
run like hell,
Or
yes,
follow me
seriously.
on Instagram, because education leads to empowerment. When you're in a trauma bond, you feel so alone because they also isolate you. You have to get information and have terms. And then once you can name it, you can tame it.
Okay. Once you can name it, you can tame it.
Yeah, I mean, one thing that's been the most powerful thing I've learned in life is when you're insecure
Yeah.
or you're feeling insecure about something, something's not going the way you want it to, moving fast enough, it's just because you lack knowledge on something.
Yes.
So what you just said verifies that. So yeah, because when you start to learn, then you're like, oh, I know how to do that now. And
Yeah.
it gives you power.
Yes, exactly.
Most people are stuck because they just don't understand that concept.
Yes.
That it's just, you just don't know something.
Yes, that's all it is. And,
And,
so,
yeah.
when I sign my book, which I always do, I
Yes.
always sign, education leads to empowerment. The best is yet to come.
Yeah.
The best is yet to come. Hope. Like you're giving hope. Because I always wonder how these beautiful, brilliant women get taken down by, no offense, but these men. Like I call it, and I
The
know,
wrong man.
and no
The
shade,
wrong
but I
man.
say being Bobby Brown because I
Yeah.
always think of Whitney Houston, this
Oh,
shining, beautiful
yes,
star. And then I
yes.
feel like Bobby was her demise. No offense if you're a Bobby Brown fan, but you know, I think women like that. I'm like, gosh, how does this happen to these women? And you see them, and then it's like they're in pieces, but they have hope. So you can
There
give
is
back.
hope. There is a lot of hope.
Turn the
And
light back on.
Yeah, and I think that, with social media and these sorts of podcasts, we are educating, and it's not like left to these like older guys with white hair in Hollywood who
Right.
get to decide
Yeah.
who gets to speak now.
Exactly.
We
Exactly.
get to have these beautiful conversations and really help people.
Yeah. And it's not like a cool thing mainstream to lift your partner up.
Right.
Like, there's so many guys out there won't tell their friends like, no, I gotta do this. And it's not because of her that she's making me not be able to go golf today or something. It's because I choose to.
Right.
I want to lift her up. I want to support her.
Yes.
She's got a party, whatever. I'm helping set up for it.
Yes.
Yeah, I can't golf today, fellas.
Yeah.
But it's not her. It's me. So many guys will be
Right.
like, yeah. And then what do their friends think about their wife then?
Right.
You know what I mean?
right,
It doesn't
right,
make sense
right.
to me.
Right. Like it's
So-
actually a nice thing. Like my
Yeah.
husband's here today,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
Right.
Yes.
And like he's like, I want to support you. I
Damn
want
right,
to
it's
help you
cool.
in this mission. And it only makes me better.
Yeah,
Because again,
yeah.
we can't do things alone.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What's the vision from here? Like, if you could have it perfect, like, where are you taking this thing? Paint the picture for us.
Yeah, so where I'm taking it is, okay, so in January, I'm launching a Trauma Bond community.
Awesome.
So there's going to be a community, and I'm launching a course that goes with my book, so that if you can't come to therapy with me, because I can't see that many people and it's expensive, now it's more democratized and they have access to it.
You can scale yourself, which is important. And then, are you using AI in any of this?
Yeah, actually, I'm launching that in January too. Thank you for reminding me.
I
forgot.
heard you mention AI a little while ago.
I forgot. Yeah, this guy reached out to me, and we're creating an AI version, like for $15 a month.
Awesome.
You get to talk to me.
That's just so cool.
So is it
Are
going to
you
be a
ready?
video of you or just a voice?
I don't know. Good question.
Because you can actually do it where now it's getting good, where it can actually be like you're on a call with them.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Yeah. I don't
It's
know
wild.
if it's that far, because
Yeah.
actually he just sent me the link to try it.
Yeah.
So we'll see.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
All right, so we're winding down here, and we have a segment called Kin's Quickies.
Great.
All the other questions,
right.
we call them their longies. These are Kin's Quickies, so she's going to fire
Pun
away at you.
intended. All right. Okay. Miss Nadine, when is the last time you laughed so hard that you cried?
Oh God, I think every day. Like
Good.
Yeah,
Oh, I love to hear that.
Yeah, like yesterday.
I love it. When is the last time you regretted something that you said?
Yesterday.
Yesterday at the game?
Is that every day too?
Yeah, I think every day I do these things. Yeah.
When is the last time you told someone you loved them?
This morning.
Oh, was it your man?
Yeah.
I love that. I
hope
love that. I love this. When is the last time you thought this must be a joke? F my life. Like something just went haywire in your world.
Oh, probably when the movie came out.
When the movie came out.
That was a big
Now
haywire.
I saw that you recently went to visit the house. Did that trigger anything for you? What was the feeling there?
It's wild to go back and
Yeah.
see where you lived.
Yeah.
To go back to the
Yeah.
scene of the crime.
Okay, the scene of the crime. When was the last time you formed a new habit?
That's a
Oh,
good
you know
one.
what? I started to play tennis again in September, twice a week.
No pickleball?
Good for you. Tennis gal. I love that.
Pickleball's easier, though, for us old people.
I know, but I like tennis.
I'm not calling you old. I
like
apologize. I
harder
should.
things.
I just said something I regret. Kins.
Oh, by the way, I love being old.
I didn't mean it that way. But like pickleball is a lot easier. Like,
know,
you don't
but-
have to run as far.
I know, but can't you tell I like hard?
Yeah. I guess you choose the hard way.
I choose the
Yeah.
hard way.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then I'm glad you brought up that thing about being old, because I'm going to be 57 on Christmas Eve.
the
You
hell
look
outta here.
amazing.
And you know what? I say nobody talks about this. We always talk about how hard it is to age, but what
Yeah.
about what happens with our emotional regulation and our minds?
Mm-hmm.
We get so much better.
Yeah.
What would you
Yeah,
give? What
that's
advice
true.
would you give to like keep the glow up?
Oh, I stay out of the sun.
Okay.
I do a deep laser once a decade.
Okay.
And I do the sauna 4 days a week.
Ooh, she's a big sauna person.
Yeah,
Okay.
big
very cool.
sauna person.
What about all these hormone therapies and all
I
these
don't do
different
any
things
of
for
that.
menopause, perimenopause?
I don't
all
do any of that.
None of that. Have you looked into any of it?
I have, but
Yeah.
I just go with it. I don't know.
She just goes
It's
with it.
part of life.
Yeah.
Yeah, but let me tell you something. I've been having some people on, some
Yeah.
experts, like top in the world,
Yeah.
and it's really intrigued me. Not just for women, but for men too.
Yes.
And I'm seeing some results in some people I know, and I'm blown away by it.
Yeah,
So,
no, it's great.
yeah.
It's just, I also had breast cancer.
Yeah.
So for me, it's like, I've spoken to my doctor. He's like, it's just not worth it.
Yeah,
Just
yeah.
keep it
So I
simple.
just do it the old-fashioned way again, the hard way.
The hard way. When is the last time you sang a song at the top of your lungs?
Oh, probably. Honey, when?
It's fun to-
What song was that? What are you into?
remember?
Oh, or
she loves the
or
holidays?
Defying Gravity. I blast Defying Gravity all the time in my car.
Yeah.
That's like one of my favorite empowerment songs.
I love it. And I'm a survivor. Okay.
yeah.
That makes sense. And lastly here, when is the last time you thought, you know what? This is what life is all about?
Oh, this morning.
Really?
Yeah.
Because she was coming here.
Yeah, I do that every day. I just say to myself, I cannot believe I get to do this for a living, and that my crazy life led to all this magic. Mm-hmm. I'm
Yeah.
blown away by it.
Yeah.
It's
So
very
I saw a post
special.
the other day, and it talked about, it was a YouTube video, and it talked about like stressing and worrying. And a way to fix all that is just know that the battle's already won.
Right.
Like all the information's out there, all this.
Yeah.
So if we already know that if we keep going, this is something I say to myself every morning, no matter what I'm going through. I wake up, keep going, dude.
That's
Yeah,
it.
Do you talk to yourself, by the way?
all the time.
Yeah, I talk to myself.
It's
The
very
best people
healthy.
do. I do as well.
It's very healthy
It
to
is.
talk to yourself in the
From
third
the
person.
licensed therapist, yeah.
In the
Yes.
right way, though. You
Yes,
gotta,
right.
know.
In the right way, in
So-
an upbeat way.
Yeah, so if we know the battle's already won and we just keep going, it makes things a
Yes.
lot easier.
Yes.
And the more uncertain the more like exciting things can happen in your life, the more uncertainty you're dealing with.
Yeah,
You know, so-
yes.
I channel it and I transmute it into excitement, you know,
Yeah.
and I always say action cures anxiety. So just like get moving if
It's
you're anxious
so
about something. I'm an
true.
overthinker. So
Yes.
it's really cool.
Where can people go deeper with you, Dr. Nadine?
Okay, so they could go see me on Instagram at The Real Dr. Nadine. They could go to my website, drnae.com. I have so many free resources. You can get my book there. And also, I'm on TikTok, the Wild West of social
Yes.
media. Dr. Nae LMFT, and direct message me. As Mike knows, I always answer my direct
right.
messages.
Yeah. Well, you are magic. So thank you so much for
Aw,
joining us.
thank
We
you so
appreciate
much
it. And you're
for
changing
having
lives,
me.
and it's incredible what
Thank
you're
you
doing.
so
Yeah,
much.
thank you. And last thing I want to know is like you answer your DMs, right?
Yes.
But like you can't get all good DMs like mine was. Like it's got to be somewhat like how do you pick and choose which DMs to
They're
answer?
all good.
Yeah, but I get DMs sometimes from
I mean, I
you
get some
know.
like long ones, like
Yeah.
that want me to solve their lives
Yeah.
in a direct message. And then I say, go to my website. You get tons of free resources.
go. Yeah.
I have to say, I don't get a lot of trolls.
Yeah.
And if I do get the guys that'll like get over it already, I just go
Yeah.
block.
Yeah.
Block. It's a magical button.
Well,
Yes.
thank you so much for your time. It means the world to me. Like, did we switch this up from virtual
I
to be
know,
here?
so
You helped
much
me out
better.
so much. You're happy about it too.
Thank
So
you.
You
thank
know
you
my
very much.
reaction when you said she was coming on.
Yeah,
I was
yeah, she's
elated. So
excited.
thank you for
Aw,
being here.
Thank you so much.
Yeah. All right, guys. This has been a wonderful episode with Dr. Nadine, Kins, and your boy C-Roc here on That One podcast. We're in Miami, and we're going to rock it out. Make sure you subscribe, tell your friends, family, coworkers about us, and go support our guest, Dr. Nadine, and buy her book. It's right here.
Yep.
See it?
Run like hell.
Thank you. Very nice to meet you. This is my husband, John.
doing C-Roc and stuff. Yeah, I came from a lot of brokenness. So as I'm watching these things, I can relate to all
This is
the...
actually a nice thing. Like my husband's here today, right?
Yay!
Right. And like he's like, I want to support you. I want to help you in this mission. And it only makes me better.
Yeah.
Because again, he